Namaste, and welcome to a panel called Looking, Watching, Seeing, the New Optics of Dance. Now imagine this, 40 dancers performing the Ras Leela, whirling, drumming, leaping across the stage in full magnificent splendor, and we are watching in our bathrobes. Imagine the Bolshoi Ballet, glittering, precision perfect, and we're in our pajamas. A Kathak dancer, a Bharatanatyam dancer, doing intricate bandish, tihai, korve in Aramandi and a Tirmanam, and we're munching chips and reaching for a drink. And another performance, perhaps one eye on the screen, and another we're shouting and barking orders to a child who refuses to eat. This is the reality of our COVID-19 world. The live arts has come into our homes and into our intimate private spaces. We seem to have almost forgotten what it means to dress up, wait in anticipation to be led into a darkened auditorium, sit down next to a friend or a stranger, and wait for the curtain to go up. Everything has come to us. And the challenge is we're watching everything through the cold, glassy eye of a camera. So what challenges does this bring to dancers? Can we adapt? Is it possible for the Indian classical dance styles to even segue into this new digital world? Joining me today are three wonderful speakers, and it's my pleasure to introduce them and welcome them. First, I will begin with Rajiv Menon. His award-winning work in films like Bombay and Guru have cemented his place in the hearts of so many filmgoers. A wonderful storyteller, he directed Minsara Kanavu and launched Me in Kandu Kondeen. And his latest film is Sarvam Talamayam, about a mridangam player and a mridangam maker. Rajiv, welcome. Next, we have the wonderfully original-looking Shivaraja Nataraja. Now, dance lovers and dancers may have seen his work as he paints the stage for almost 30 years in Ramli Ibrahim's Sutra Dance Company. An avid painter, his obsession with a Baroque style of art has brought his love of the visual arts into lighting design. Welcome, Shiva. And finally, we have a woman of many parts, Sridevi Deshpande Puri, who started as a textile designer with Garden Vareli. Remember those bright printed saris? And then she went on to have her own design and was one of the early people to join Tanishq. And later, she glided very smoothly as the head of creative design for the luxury jewelry brand Ganjam. Sridevi has worked across mediums, textiles, metal, precious stones, and her work has been seen in Milan and London. She's also designed dance costumes for Madhu Nataraj and STEM Dance Company. Welcome, Sridevi, and welcome all of you. I want to start with the idea of color and texture and shade. And so I'm going to start with Rajiv. Rajiv, in two films, one, you were a director, Minsara Kanavu, and the other, you were the cinematographer, Bombay. I want to pick out two moments. In Bombay, you had Manisha in this beautiful swathe of blue against the ocean in a part of Kerala, where the location was. And as a director in Minsara Kanavu for the song Ooh La La La, you had this candy floss background and you had a heroine, Kajal, in black. So just talk to me about it, because we're talking about color, texture, and shade. Tell us those two moments and how they happened for you.
I think Bombay, as we know, is a film about the Bombay riots. And so it's obvious that you're going to be shooting a lot with gray as well as fire and dust and smoke in the second half of the film. So if you say that warm beiges, grays, browns, khakis are the colors of the second half. The opposite is what you need to do before their life turns topsy-turvy. So even though we shot the village in 4 different locations in dry Tamil Nadu, we could not find a river. So we went for the river and we wanted the river crossing and the boat. So we had shot in Kasaragod during the rain. And we shot Uire in Bekal Fort, which is close by in Kanyanad. And then the girl's house was in Pollachi, and the Kannalane song was in Madurai. So we construct an ideal world by going to 4 different locations. But the idea behind it is moist greenery, which is fresh after rain, was the idea that was holding us through the first half. So in that, we decided to eliminate red and pink and all that. So even though there were costumes like red and pink, we removed that. And we took another costume and adapted it and just had the shroud of black and not gray that you're going to see later, and have the greenery of the thing and the ocean. So we pulled the filter off, brought in the blue into the monsoon thing, and shot basically the kind of style of a landscape without trees and the surging sea and the sky and the solid red laterite coming only through the fort wall, which is symbolic of the impediment. So you try to work not with all the colors, but with some of the colors. And in Minsara Kanavu, because it was like a Mardi Gras or a kind of a fiesta, so you take all the colors to the back and then not put all the colors onto the heroine, then she looks like a Paris toffee wrapper or something like that. So you take the cut colors which you see in cartoons and put them like Walt Disney colors behind, and put the girl in black because she is going to go and become a nun. So you are guiding the audience into that color scheme before they actually get hit by it.
You say that you're so inspired by the Baroque style of this extravagant 17th, 18th century lighting. And for those of us who have seen you work your lighting on stage, it's as if you're painting the stage, you know, with a kind of an opulence. Now, my question to you is, when you're working with many dancers, 10, 15, 20, 12, and you are working with dancers of different skin tones with great contrasts, like in Malaysia, you're working with so many different skin tones. I want you to talk about how you use color and multiple bodies on stage.
Okay. See, Anita, when I mentioned about lighting dancers, on a stage performance, for me, it's like my approach is like they are just a blank canvas. So you give them all these shades of colors. In my paintings, I use my colors, my brushes and paint to express the rasas and the emotions. But on theater, I will do on the stage, I will use the light, the lanterns, to create the mood and the atmosphere. So my approach, you see, like when you say Malaysia, we are multiracial, we have a different skin tone and all that. So I think like it's very difficult. By the time we go into the detail, we miss the whole, the climax of it. So I make it very general. So what I do, like I give them a lot of side lights by sculpturing them. Basically, dance performance, it's easy to be lit. One thing is like, normally, like I don't open up the light just like that from the front of house. I will like use a lot of backlighting. Usually like you're pushing them to the front, and then you compress from the side, both wing left and right. And then like you sculpture them, almost you give them a 3-dimensional 3D effect. You sculpture them, then you shoot the 30% of the FOH lights, the face light. So normally when you look into my production, a lot of people complain, oh, in a munje so they complain.
That's a dancer's always, or the dancer's family. Yeah.
Yeah, they always say that, can't see the expression. And I said no, because like when I work with Ramli, I think like he has given me this freedom of expression that you see, like, we don't straight away come to the point to see the facial expression. So before coming to the facial expression, there is like a journey where the dancers come through. So that's where my freedom of expression comes in. So I will create all these moods and all this, that is like, my like what do you call the like a 3-second glory of fame to create the atmosphere. And when the dancers come to a point where the music cue comes in, then I open up their face light. Then it syncs with the cue. Then you get a visibility. Otherwise, straight away you wanted to show the thing. For me, I think that's not my style of working.
Okay.
But I think that's it, Anita. Is okay?
Yeah, fine, of course. And we're moving straight on to Sridevi. Sridevi, when you work with jewelry, of course, you work with such close-up and minutiae and the precision. But for dance, we're seeing it at a certain distance. So tell me about the two productions, Mandala and Nirvaya, that you worked with Madhu and STEM Dance. Tell us about the colors you chose, the fabrics, and why you chose them. Shri, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Yeah, yes.
So Mandala was a production which was a sequence part of the Shringara production that we did at the Crafts Council event in Chennai, which was Grass to Gold. And it was a very interesting production because I think for the first time, STEM Dance Company introduced the using of visuals in the background. So they had moving images which were in the backdrop of the dancers. And it was a very interactive process between the visuals and the dancers. So the lighting had to be quite low for the visuals to be visible. And yet the dancers had to be lit in the front. So we chose a very bold color, like a scarlet red. They had these beautiful textured, full sleeved. We wanted the color to really pop because it was in tune with Mandala, which is about the sacred geometry in Hinduism and Buddhism philosophy. So red is a very sacred color. So that is why we chose to use scarlet as a color. And we used like a crinkled top, which was full sleeved and high necked. And we also used like dhoti pants to create a flow when they were moving. So we did an interesting mix of body contouring tops, as where we got the flow from using the dhoti pants for them, and they had to interact with the visuals at the back while they were dancing. So it was quite interesting. We kept the hair very, very simple. It was like a stark ponytail or a long braid at the back. And then we had a nice gold bindu at the Agnya Chakra on the forehead, on the top of the forehead. So it was quite a striking image. I think it worked very well for that particular sequence and production.
And Nirvaya?
And with Nirmaya, I think the whole concept of Nirmaya for me was very interesting when Madhu discussed it with me. I think one of the lines of the poetry by Akka Devi, who was a 12th century mystic or a Sharani, one line stuck with me, which was, how do you create form out of the formless? And this is the theme that we kept for the costume, because the whole concept of Nirvaya was dissolution into the absolute.
Dissolving.
Yeah, dissolving into the absolute. So Madhu, while performing, there were parts of the sequences where she almost had to blend in with the visuals on the background. Again, here, there were moving visuals on the background, which expressed her choreography and the theme of Nirvaya. So we chose a very nude colored Maheshwari so that it could take the visual images which were being projected on, and it was, you could see movement, but she was almost disappearing into the background. So we tied it in very closely to the concept of the production, and that was very interesting exercise for us.
Thank you, Shri. I want to move to Rajiv. Rajiv, you have a grew up with a classical singing mother, Kalyani Menon, and so you also have a ear for classical music. But when you watch dance, do you really think that our classical dance can really be chopped up in terms of a close-up of the eye, then a close-up of the hand, a close-up of the feet? Does it work like that when you are shooting classical dance? Tell me how you feel about this.
I think we are going through a massive change in the way we are filming dance and the way we are perceiving it. Because if you look at the way early cinema was dealing with it, say, in the 1940s and 50s, you had longer compositions and people holding the shots longer because the dancers were extraordinary, and it was like the idea of watching a stunt, like when you see magic, you don't want too much of cutting. You want to see that magical quality, that it's actually a person doing it. It's like watching sports or watching something which is live and not through the can I say, the deceit of camera. So the intervention of the camera was to record but not participate in the process. But now what you notice is that when beat has become stronger and with the advent of MTV, you find a lot of the cutting is very dramatic, and it is jolting it, and the cutting is rather driven by the beat. Now, when it comes to Indian dance, it's not possible because you're not going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're not going that. You got so many complications in the beat, and in addition to that, you could be cutting on beat or off beat or 1/4 beat. So the dance is the beat structure in dance is so complicated that you cannot come up with a simplistic cutting. So it creates the visual excitement that the present audience wants is cutting. But when you do that, you're fragmenting the dance so much that the very fact that a person is doing this great thing continuously is being violated. So sometimes I think cutting is bad. And you can see some of the people who film classical dance much better, like say Sanjay Leela Bansali, doesn't cut that much. He lets the performer dance, he lets the choreography come in. And I think he is one person who is filming dance in a very beautiful manner, because he is very knowledgeable in dance, and he also understands the role between the camera and the dancer, the triangular formation and things like that, in a much better manner than others do. So I think there is hope in some ways in the way Bajirao Mastani was filmed or in that, but all of them go back to the era of Pakiza, and they kind of take their reference points from that. And Pakiza and all of them were shot by a German photographer called Joseph Hirschweg. And Joseph, in turn, had come from Germany to work in Bombay talkies. So German expressionism came into that lighting. It wasn't natural like what was happening in Bengal. So you have certain schools of styles of cinematography, which are an art direction, which are in some ways heavily influenced by seminal films from the 60s, like Mughal-e-Azam and Pakiza and stuff like that.
You were talking about long sequences. For me, unforgettable is Padmini in Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai, almost, acrobatic from one level to another, long sequences by Wahida Rahman, Vaijayanti Mala, where we were watching with, as they would go all over the set and hit their mark, and also look at the camera at the right point, and there was no cut. The camera was just moving. You're right. Shiva, I wanted to ask you, after you light a live stage production, and then you watch it on video, you watch the production that you have lit, how does it make you feel? Like, because it's a whole different medium. The human eye has watched it, and now you're watching it through the mediation of the camera's eye that has recorded it. Do you like what you see? Are you saying, no, I should have done something more here, I should have done something less here? And another part of the question is, have you ever lit only for the camera, that is for a recording purpose, of the same production? Tell me just how you've worked with these two aspects.
Okay. Sharing the idea of a stage experience with live recordings. I think sometimes, like now digitals, Facebook, Instagram, So a lot of audience that comes in, even like some of the dancers, they captured that on their handphone and posted because they wanted to get instant likings and all that. I think like when you sit in an auditorium and look into the proscenium stage, because the dance was choreographed on the proscenium stage. When you look into that proscenium, I think it's a different experience. Like when you are seeing it from your camera, you're just looking through a box of viewfinder, you know, like a rectangle. You're just seeing through a viewfinder. I think for me, I think we are losing a lot. The experience is much more important rather than capturing it within the small phone, you know, and shooting it out. But I think like when you sit there and enjoy them, I think like I think like the lighting will do more justice if you know, if you were to see and witness a performance, because I think there's every single things were captured. You see the proscenium as a whole, not as a close-up or section of the body of the dancers and all that, you know. Sometimes like when they do a close-up on certain things, they missed out the other side of the activity where like you know, there's another entrance exit which is coming, all interlinked. But then like you know, this camera, sometimes they will just focus on this area, but then they miss the other. So sometimes I'll get all this comment because sometimes I'm the one who organized my video guys and all that to shoot. And then the dancers will express as dissatisfaction, saying that, oh, we missed the choreography because they want to use for study reference. Oh, we don't know what is coming out there. The guy is doing a close-up here. So I will tell them, whatever it is, I think like you have to have one master shot where you, for study reference different. I think to be artistic, I think it's entire, you know, I think it's a different ball game. I think like they have done works for, especially for cameras, you know, where you do a dance performance, you record for broadcasting. So they have a different set of lightings and all that. I think sometimes we also have, you know, the production house in Malaysia, you know, run by our private cable TVs and all that. For them, I think like they have everything. They have their in-house technical team and all that, and they all use these diffusers, filters, and all that. You know, so whatever it is, they want everything to be seen from the clear. They don't want to have shadows and all that. They say like, you know, this is too dark and all.
So basically, what you're saying is that it's what we all agree. It's a whole different kind of optic when you want to film dance for the camera.
Different.
Yes,
it's a very different thing. I think like when you are doing it for camera, I think like there is a way how you can, you know, you can lift up the dance. Like you sing within the frame. I think like I always like to capture movements from below eye level. You know, when you go to, I'm sure, you know, Rajiv understands that. Still, when you go below eye level, I think it shows the majestic heights and all that, you know, like the whole atmosphere comes up.
Well, we in the auditorium are also sitting below. I mean, the performer is elevated
some
on the
are like
stage.
eye level. Some seats are on eye level. You see, like when you sit like in the music academy, is like almost like slightly below eye level. So this is where you see the beauty of the dancers, you know, the lighting, everything comes in well.
Yeah, I think the Bolshoi stage in Russia is so gently raked as if the dancers are coming towards you. Exactly. It's so technically done. Shri, I want to move to you. And on the topic of lighting, was there a time during any of your costume design that you've designed it, you fitted the dancers, and then you're watching a lighting rehearsal and then you're saying, oh, no, this doesn't quite work. I have to do something to the costume. Have you had a moment like that?
So I worked with Madhu on a production that was commissioned by Ganjam called Vajra. And in Vajra, we had a sequence, very interesting sequence called the Dance of Light, where the dancers were dancing in almost darkness. They had torches which they were using as a prop to create movements and accentuate their movements. And we had a designer called Chandrasekhar from Metaphor who designed the costumes for this sequence in the production. And about 2 weeks before the production, we were having a look at the costumes at the tech rehearsal. And while the rehearsal was going on, the STEM team decided to add in blue light because their costumes are white. There were white tunics which had like handkerchiefs, hems, and it was a very modern silhouette and very flowy. The fabric was like a cotton, but like a crinkled cotton, so it had a nice movement to it. And while the sequence was looking nice, with the blue light because the white was really showing up. It needed something more because it was the dance of light. So while watching the rehearsal, we just decided to add on some large mirrors onto large round mirrors just scattered across the costume. And it really lifted the whole theme and brought it to life. So that is one of
Okay.
the experiences we had with STEM.
Yeah, that's interesting. Rajiv, I want to come back to you. When you shoot dance sequences in your feature films, right? Do you actually go into the rehearsal studio and watch the choreography, or you're watching it? You're
No,
watching
no,
it only on set.
no. We do definitely. We are with the choreographer in in their studio watching the dance. And if we are in Chennai, then we have to go to the Cine Dancers Union. They have a hall there. Sometimes when we are on location, then we hire a hall in the theater in the hotel that we are staying, and they show it to us. And basically, when we are shooting a song, we have around 4 to 5 climaxes. So what happens is the Pallavi must climax in an interest, and then you will see a different motive coming in the BGM. Then Charanam 1 has to climax again, and again the Pallavi, the motive of the Pallavi will repeat. And so very often dancers in South do not repeat the dance movement from the Pallavi, which in North India they do. They would have a key step and they would keep repeating it. And the more you repeat the step, and if that repeat step is really good, that's when the song becomes really a hit number. So if you look at most of those numbers, what happened in South Indian cinema is because you had a great sense of athleticism, which Prabhu Deva and his brother and all of them did. A lot of the key steps would be in the feet. Now, when you have your key step in the feet and it's a jump, then what happens is the repeat step is going to be a long shot. And when your repeat step is a long shot, the performance of the main actor will go. So a repeat step, even if you have 2 on the feet, must still come and it should come and stop here so that it can come and fix onto a close-up. So the artist must also come through, the expression must come through, as well as the dance, item must come. So invariably it will be a mid shot because it allows you to have the hands moving and the body. And so it's largely that decision as to what's the volume you're going to shoot this, the thing in. The other thing which Nataraj was talking about watching the dance from down, I think one of the problems we also face is the way we shoot stunts and the way we shoot action sequences. So there are 2 approaches to it. So if there's a lot of cutting in the action sequence, you dilate space and time. So you have like John Woo kind of a thing where in an action sequence, suddenly you will start shooting it like a ballet, where you'll have extreme slow motion followed by fight, followed by zoom, it will do that. So you're dilating and compressing time, which is what cinema is all about. So the same thing will apply to dance. And one of the things that we have noticed is that the advent of these cameras like GoPro, which people are fixing onto their surfboards and giving you shots, is about getting you immersed into the action. So it's a very immersive experience. So when you jump today from one building to the other, the camera jumps with you. It's not like watching a person jump over the sky when you know that there is some protective gear down. So right now you will see in Batman and all of that, when the jump happens, the camera is going with that. So you get a sense of that wow, excitement of the jump. And I think dance also will go towards that. When you have these smaller rigs and you can move with the dancers, you can communicate that sense of joy in the leaping and the perfection of the finish. I think the more people understand dance, the better they will be able to shoot it.
Wow. Thank you. And But has there been just one little adjunct to that? Has there been, after you watched the choreography, you've set your camera angle, that you've actually gone to the actual location and you found that, no, I think the angle of this choreography has to change because, and have you actually worked on the set with a choreographer saying, either Seri Varle, this doesn't work, this has to sort of change?
Oh yeah,
have you done it? Yeah.
Yeah, we do that. We do that on quite a few occasions, and I still remember a sequence in Kannalane where we had seen some choreography, and apparently when we saw the dance, we were told that actually Prabhu Deva had composed it. Raju Master had said that whenever we said this is a good step, he would say, the Prabhu composed Pannaru, he would say. And we were filming that, and there was this outstanding piece where அந்த மின்சார பார்வையின் வேகம் வேகம் உன்னோடு நான். That whole thing is the camera just swishes and it starts tracking in, and there's no cut. And what do you call, Manisha is dancing, and at the end of it, Arvind comes from behind. So we had this absolute, continuous take the entire Charnam in one shot. But before that, we had a lot of cutting. The hide and seek was being built up. But in between this, we had this Sufi chant, Gamapa Mapa, Gamapa Mari, Nidari. That was composed, and it was like people were sitting on a straight stage and they were Gamapa Mapa, they were like clapping and singing. It was just not capturing what AR had sung. So Mani was getting furious. It was it was right in the middle and it wasn't working, and suddenly we said that why don't we shoot it like the way in Junoon we saw those Sufi singers sing. What can we do something like that? And then we came up with the circular trolley, and then we said this is the way Bhimsen Joshi would sing, and that's the way we would sing. And suddenly in between that, Mani said, then go show it. He said, what? I have to go and show it. Yeah, go show it, he said. And suddenly they were like 3,000 people watching the shoot, and I said, why the shit did I have to say this? I could have just kept quiet and it would have gone through without a problem. And we were trying to get Sundaram Master to sing and dance like that, and Sundaram Master said, no, I won't do it. So I had to stand there and I had to sort of sing like a crazy Sufi. I looked completely mad doing that, and we had the circular trolley going. But we do all kind of crazy things to get something right, and it works sometimes.
Well, I remember, Rajiv, before I go on to Shiva, I remember, Rajiv, when during one of the scenes that you were shooting me in for Kandukondain, and I was asking something like, Yenna padindirukka? And he said, stop, it's not a Bharatanatyam, don't exaggerate your gesture, because I'm right here, the camera is right here. So it really is, it's a medium of such nuances, with a little flick here and an angle here. Shiva, my question to you is in all the years you've worked with dancers, mostly in Malaysia, do you think that dancers are interested in the whole craft of lighting itself? How to take a light, how to hit the spot, how to hit a mark? Do they actually come and talk to you about it? Do they want to know more about it? Or are they just obsessed about their performance on stage?
I'm talking from my experience. Where
yes, from your experience.
So I don't know about other companies, but for me, it's like when in Sutra, I work with my dancers. When I design the lights, the first thing they go to the stage, I'll draw the border. I say, this is the limits you can come. If you cross the limits, I think you are in dark. So I'll tell them, I have to tell them like saying like, if you want to be seen as a dancer, you want to be seen, you have to be in the light. So they have a tendency of going to almost to the edge of the stage, to the audience. They think that by going closer to the audience, they get a better expression, visibilities. And I say, no, there is a dark area. I say, like, why you cross that? So you maintain your border, okay? The light is there. Basically, the lights are invisible, So like, if you come from when on the wing lights, the side lights, its total stage will be dark. But if a dancer is walking from upstage downstage, it will pick up because the subject is there. You get lit up. It just picks up. So the light is there, but it's not visible. The light is only visible when the dancers comes into the spots. So I tell them, if you want to get noticed, be in the light, because the light don't move. I think as a dancer, you can move. Even you are off the spot, so don't try to be smart to be off the spot. Move into the spot. You know, it's not like it's going to be end of the world. You know, so everyone do mistakes. Somehow, I think it's more challenging for dancers. I think they are doing it live, so it's okay. Even like you are already sitting on out of the spot. Okay, because the light cannot move. I think you can move into the light. So I think I tell them this kind of thing. So being, I think, to give them all the technical aspects, and I think they rather be on the stage, you know, and they share their stage glory. They are not, I think, as far as I know, they are not keen in knowing the technical side of it. They don't want to come to the dark room or the green room. You know, they want visibility, so they want to be on the stage, and that's it. They don't want to know how the light, what is this instrument is like, you know, what kind of light. There's so many kinds of lights are there. You know, the certain lights have certain effect and all that. For example, I must tell you, Anita, I experienced this. I think this was in Toronto a long time ago. The Kalanidhi Dance Festival, you know, the Harbour Theatre in Toronto. So they had a festival. So we performed there. And the next day, another prominent dancer from Chennai, Bharatanatyam dancer went. And then she performed there. No, like they like spot. They said like when I do the Abhinaya pieces, sitting pieces, okay, give me this spot. Okay. And then the lighting designer in that stage has given the spot to her. And then when the show goes on, I think she has a spot. Of course, she set the spot, and then the spot was like the face is not visible because the light is coming from the back.
Okay.
So what you see is just a silhouette. So I went up and I told the guy, "Hey, Kai, this is wrong. You know, I don't think so. She meant this spot. You know, like when she says special means like this." He said, "No, I cannot do anything. This is what she requests." She was sitting there for almost 15 minutes on the dark on the back lighting. So this, I think they should have a basic understanding. You see, the light, if you say spot, it's like there is like, you know, upstage, front, diagonal. There's almost like, you know, like if you're the light coming from your back, you only see your shadow. That means when you see your shadow in front of you, that means your face are not lit. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is some theories I always tell them. If you see, if you think that you are in light, just look at yourself on the floor. If you can see your shadow, that means you are light. You don't see a shadow, you are invisible. So these are the two aspects. But I think because I think being a dancer, I think is more easier than coming to the technical side of it. See, when we talk about, you know, the backstage, yeah? So like I always move in with my teams and all that, you know, way before the dancers. So the dancers like comes in only when they have a rehearsal slots and all that. They come in, they do the thing, and then they come in during the light blockings and all that. I think it's a luxury that we have enough time and all that. Then I give them a full run. You know, normally like you know, my production, when I do production and all that, our full run is always on the gala night. On the first night of the show, will be our actual tag run.
Yes,
so,
that's
yeah,
the situation
that is always
for
the case, you
most of
know.
us.
So like, but I still do the best, you know. So like I still improvise. Even I program over 100 over cues. I still I have my programmer, my lighting guys, but I still keep about, you know, 20 channels backup. So like if sometimes, you know, the dancers comes out of the light, you just still push them, but you just have to tell them there is a limit you can cross. But sometimes they get too excited or carried away, they move.
Okay, thank you, Shiva. Shri, I want to move to you and to the next topic of institution building. You know, so I know that you're on the board of trustees of the marvelous and late Wendell Rodrick's Moda Goa Museum. And it is dedicated to Goa, its history, its textiles, its culture. But now with museums all over the world becoming so interactive, and nothing is static. So is there a provision or space in Moda Goa for the performing arts?
That's an interesting question. So the Moda Goa Museum is the first costume museum in the country today. And we're hoping to open it sometime end of this year or early next year. One of the rooms that is in the museum, Wendell wanted to capture the festivals of Goa. And each festival in Goa is celebrated through dance and music. So as we don't have such a large space, one of the ways that we decided to showcase the different festivals and the costumes that are part of the festivals is by actually having a video of the different festivals. that will continuously play on a loop in the museum. So there are over 50 or 60 festivals that happen through the year in Goa, which could be harvest, which could be religious, which could be, and each of them has specific costumes that are associated with them, specific ritualistic dances that are associated with them. So it was Wendell's vision to give people an introduction to and a snippet into an introduction into all these little festivals that happen across Goa. They're not so widely known, but they're very regional in Goa. So this was a great platform for us to showcase the wealth that is available in Goa.
Thank you. Rajiv, you started and you run the Mind Screen Institute. It started for cinematography and now it has so many other branches. Do you think that there will be now an opportunity to teach cinematographers about dance, because they have to film dance sequences, whether in feature films or sometimes even in ads? So is that something like a different discipline or a special discipline you have in your course for cinematographers?
We don't have a specific module as what you're talking about. We don't have it because what we are noticing in cinema is the decline of the song. The importance of songs are declining dramatically, and we are moving more towards kind of a Western style of storytelling, which is devoid of songs. You probably have one or two songs. So it's not 6 songs are not mandatory for a CD release, and filming 6 songs are not. And filming songs are very expensive. They cost average around 20 lakhs to do a big song, and a small song will cost around 6 lakhs. So today people don't have that kind of budget because there's nothing you're going to do which is going to really bring people to the theater and they're going to see a song. Like the 2 big songs which came out of South India in the last maybe 10 years was Kolavari and Rowdy Baby. But both those films didn't do well. They were great hit songs. I mean, nobody went to the theater just to see those songs. They were the biggest hit songs that we produced out of Tamil Nadu. Whereas Andhra is doing a little better. You have Katabomma, Pottabomma song is, everybody is copying that step. And they seem to have, the commercial cinema still seems to have a very strong connect with the song picturization there. In Kerala, you're having a different thing that you have a lot of alternate music. So also in Kannada cinema, you have influences of jazz coming into, and Kannada film music is finding new avenues. So it depends actually on what's happening to the music and what is the relevance of that. As a field of study, we don't have it because our course is short. But if I probably had it for 3 years by study, then I would probably say, go ahead and picturize a song, because I cannot, as a teacher say, look at songs that was 20 years back and try to do that, because that's an aesthetic choice. You cannot instruct people on that, but you got to make people understand through a PowerPoint as to this is how songs are made. If you ever wanted to do a song, then this is how stunts are shot, and this is how the whole process works. And I'll give you an example. Like when you shoot a scene, you divide the shots and then you ask the actors to repeat. That's like a master take and you have shots. But when you shoot a stunt, you cannot have that. It has to be in sequence. So you go back to a technique like documentary filmmaking. So if a car is smashed, you cannot smash the car again. You got to take the action from there. So that's called triple take technique. So you educate them on the value of documentary and shooting with a single camera and not multiple cameras, because you cannot repeat an action. Once destroyed a car, you have to proceed from there. So those elements are important to study. And I specifically feel in the case of dance, especially after hearing what Shiva was talking about, I think it's very important that dancers learn a couple of things. You should not teach dance without music. Dancers should learn music. Dancers should learn how to play a rhythm instrument. Dancers should learn lighting. Dancers should learn makeup. These things have to be understood. So like Bharatanatyam dancers take a lot of things, they put a mic and they talk in chaste English and say that this is what the Abhinayika was saying, this is what it is. They are good with that, but they don't put the same effort into actually learning the music. The movement you take live music out of Bharatanatyam, it becomes record dance. It cannot be, the liveness will come when you can exploit all the thing that makes live really very good, as in when, after 1 year, when we come back to live. So just as singers should know how to use the mic, the dancers should know how to receive the light. The dancers should know how to tone down the makeup when they are being shot for the camera.
Yes.
Both. So the idea that you're performing sometimes for an audience at a distance of 30 feet, sometimes you're performing for a camera which is only 5 feet. All these perceptions about the receiving light, color, all these things have to be part of a overall study process, and kind of say a more comprehensive study process, rather than I shall be beautiful, I shall dance, I know my nritta or I know my abhinaya. We should have a bigger knowledge base.
Thank you, Rajiv. Shiva, you're a painter and a lighting designer. So you bring a kind of your painting skill and your painter's eye. Now, do you think dancers, Rajiv said they must know all these other things, but do you think dancers must also do something else, like maybe paint, maybe do pottery, maybe do something else in an allied art form to even increase their own visual vocabulary? Do you think that is important or crucial?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think as a dancer, I think most of them must stick it to their own genres.
We only have 10 minutes, so we have to
Okay.
be quick with our
So,
thoughts. Yes.
I think in Sutra, I think Ramli has trained them. Even we take them on an international tour and all that. After the performance, we'll take them to the museums, to the opera. So they have to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. So they know what not to do precisely. So we'll expose them. You have to go and see a sculpture. How an artist, sculpturing, doing these sculptures. And you are going to see the paintings, like some of the international artists, you go to MoMA or even you go to Paris to do, we take them everywhere. Whenever we go, they may say, after performance, you have to go, no more shopping. You have to go and see all these galleries, and you have to go and watch other performances as well. Like by looking at other performance, then you know what are the things and all that. I think Sutra, we have trained them, to multitask and all that. I think they're good in terms of when registered dancers are good in doing their own makeup, their costumes. They look at it because we travel on a very tight budget, so we share that kind of things. I think I think that's it.
Well, that's good. So I hope all the dancers who are tuning in now, and there's so many comments coming, I'm sure that they're taking note. I want to slowly begin to wind up because we're almost at the end of it. Shri, I'll start with you. They say that this is the most exciting time. It could be a most uncertain time, but they say with technology, with this current quarantine and lockdown, somehow hierarchies have dissolved, and the power has come back to the artist. In this case, the dancer. So do you think that now there are the divisions between cinema and music and theater and dance and performance art, all that, is this an exciting time, do you feel, for people to actually start talking to each other, disciplines to talk to each other? I want all your thoughts one by one very quickly. I want to start with Shri.
It is an interesting time because during a time like this, it forces people to innovate. You have to think of new ways to do things that you used to do. So it shakes up your whole base and gives you the opportunity to think of new creative ideas in which to approach your work, because your platform has changed, your medium has changed, your interaction with the audience is now online. It's not going to be a direct audience. I think performing artists for a long time, or since time immemorial, have actually fed off a live audience. So to change that mindset, to work with a audience that's online, but the difference is that instead of a limited audience which comes to an auditorium, you have the world as your oyster. So how you tap into that, how you reinvent yourself to work with the new mediums, like Rajiv was rightly saying about how film works, or how Shiva was talking about how lighting works. I think now more than ever, it's very important for dancers or performers or artists to understand the new mediums with which they need to work, and therefore all the elements that support them doing work on the new medium and understand it more and use it to their advantage. I think
Okay.
that's a very important.
Rajiv, very quickly, do you think it's an exciting time now?
Yeah, as she said, as I agree with Sri Devi that you may see a breakthrough coming through in these performing fields, primarily because if you look at writing for stories, I mean Shakespeare didn't write novels. Shakespeare wrote plays and sonnets. I mean, because if you wanted to propagate it, you had to have somebody stage the performance, and you needed an audience to listen to it. I mean, the advent of the novel is directly related to the rise of the printing press. But in a novel, you are addressing an individual. So this time, you're not addressing a collective audience, but individual audiences sitting in various geographies. So your style of production will have to be to address an individual, and thereby the individual will tune in at a certain point and tune out and then come back, like the way you read a novel not in one go, like the way you see a play in one go. It's a temporal art form. But a novel can be read for 20 pages, you leave it and then come back and read the novel. And you probably have that kind of a aspect to dance where people will consume it at their time, at their convenience, but may not consume it in one continuous time frame. And that is very difficult for us to adjust to, that thought. Besides, attention spans of people are very limited. They are not 20 minutes now. They're getting coming down to 3 minutes, below that 90 seconds. So you got to hook the audience within 90 seconds. If they don't, you lost them, and they're just going to swap you out to the next YouTube channel. So it's a very difficult time, but also it's a difficulty which breeds innovation.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Now, I think we're going to take questions because there's too many, but I have one question for each of you. I'm going to start with Shiva. Shiva, how do you see stage productions being affected by these times? What will happen to the idea of sets, costume, lighting design? And do you have to become very minimal now in these times, and even resources are going to be strained? That's a question directed to you.
You see this difficult time, like it's a lockdown and all that. So I consider this as a blessing, because I think this is the best time. We can shut down everything. We can get back into ourselves. We have to start reinventing the whole wheel. See, in terms of creativities, how we can minimize the whole thing. So like, you see, in Sutra, when I do things, is like always the budget is the main issue. So how do we cut down everything? You can bring a backdrop, you can just put it design a backdrop is weighing only about 10 kilos, and you put it up, then you put out the screen, you put a light, then you create a magic. So basically, a lot of people, they don't believe it, but you create the 3D effects and all that by keeping simple method. I think the only thing is like nowadays, I think we have to go, everything is like recycle, we recycle, we reinvent everything, whatever the past, we pull out from some of the sketches and all that. So I think we can do that. Now, at this point, we can even cut down. Being a lighting designer, you can give me 100 lights, stage with 100 lights, and also a stage with 2 lights. I can still create a piece. But you see, the dancers have to understand that there is a limitation. So we work with the limitation. So we cannot have a lot of specials and all that. So we work with that kind of limitations. And
so be creative.
Yeah, life will go on,
Well, of course.
I think this lockdown period and all that, I think nothing is not going to be end of the world. I think this is like a speed breaker for us. We put a pause to the thing, the what you call the hectic world outside. We just go into ourselves and reinvent.
Okay, we have to round up very quickly. Shri, I wanted to ask you as a question. I have to come to Rajiv. Please make it brief. So much art, design, live performances have come now to us free, absolutely free. So when we emerge into the new normal, are people going to be willing to pay for the arts? Will the value of the arts be decreased in some way?
I certainly think that people should pay for art, because at the end of the day, it's a creative endeavor which is very individualistic, and if you want to consume it, you have to pay for it. I think it'll take some time for people to get into that mindset. And I think it needs to be introduced in a way where it makes sense to the person to pay for it. and be able to consume it. But I think more and more as we go along on this online journey, I think new introductions are going to come in where new norms will come in where certain things will be free and certain things will have to be paid for when you consume them.
Finally, Rajiv, as a filmmaker who's worked very closely with dance and music, could you point to some artistic strategies for creatively resisting the seemingly inevitable digital turn in the live arts? Maybe just give us one possibility.
It's very difficult to you know, I don't know, because music industry has gone through this absolutely devastating blow as far as you know, you sang, somebody sold a CD and you made money, and you had these big companies, and all these big companies are gone, and you have these streaming giants. So most of the revenue that was coming for top stars was from their live acts. Now with live acts gone, what do? I really don't know what the solution is because like it's going to be very difficult for the next 1 year for the film industry to function, because we're going to have we're going to have social distancing. We have 300 people on a set. We'll have to work with 30 people on a set. Unions will oppose it, but unions will need to know that that's the way the new normal is going to be. So shooting is going to be difficult. Then when it comes to the theater, it's going to be a big difference. Only 50% of the capacity can be utilized because the middle seat will be removed. So that's going to affect the value proposition of stars and the possibility of earning money from it. So I think you're going to see some very exciting times in the next couple of years, and disruption in the cinema theater is going to happen. And I think art has witnessed a lot of these kind of changes. So if you look at the way when colonial powers came in and how our art has adjusted, how the golden period of art can be during the Maratha period in Tamil Nadu, and how it evolved like that, some kind of new normal will come about, but it's difficult to predict it.
Yeah. Well, I want to end on a note of hope by saying that dancers, we are the most resilient, we are the most creative. And I say that we have to wrap up. And I want to thank you all. I think it's been a most riveting conversation. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Shri. Thank you, Rajiv. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. I think you've listened to some amazing points. Most importantly, dancers, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to be creatively flexible. You have to diversify. You have to upskill yourself with other aspects that you never thought about. But I want to thank all of you who've joined us from all over the world, and thank you all. Namaste.
Namaste.